This is Brian, ScreenFiles.com in review. Do you remember this commercial?
We need to go. We need to go now.
One of the best horror movies I've seen this year.
Definitely 10 out of 10.
Come here!
Was crazy.
This is perfectly natural.
It is bullshit. This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com in review. And what I'm looking at today is 2022's Barbarian, directed by Zach Kreger. And as I said, that commercial is bullshit. It is nonsense. This movie is not that scary. It's good though. It's very good. Though it is not that scary. And like I always say, it is nothing new under the sun. In fact, it's very evocative of Wes Craven's The Hills Have Eyes in quite a few ways. That being said, Barbarian is a clever movie. And I don't mean that in a snarky sense. It is genuinely clever, and it does most things right. And what it doesn't do right, it works so well that you're willing to forgive it. For instance, Bill Skarsgård's character, oh by the way, it's worth mentioning, Bill Skarsgård is an executive producer of Barbarian. Though his character is a diversion. Literally, he ought to have a name badge that says, "I'm here to distract you from what's actually going on." And that's a pity, because it didn't need to be. And with a minor tweak, watch the movie, you'll know exactly what I mean. He would have been a more fully fleshed out character, making the movie more interesting. Though as I said, that's a relatively minor issue. And Barbarian is a really fascinating movie because it does what the better horror movies tend to do, which is to say there are layers to this movie. This movie is layer rich. You have the obvious scenario, which is to say Tess, played by Georgina Campbell, rents an Airbnb in the sketchiest of sketchy neighborhoods. Upon arriving, she learns that someone is already there named Keith, who is played by Bill Skarsgård. Beyond that scenario, this movie talks about gentrification. This movie even talks about white male privilege. It is really fascinating, and the title is great because it's not what you think. It is such a well done and cleverly written movie in most aspects that it works particularly well, and that it's able to comment upon all these other issues and not feel overstuffed is fascinating to me. And the way this movie is assembled is really odd in the sense that it's almost two movies. It's not, but it almost feels like two different movies. And a weaker filmmaker would probably not have done it this way because the movie builds up momentum and it's pulled away. And that to me feels like a director who is really confident in his approach to the material because you've seen the story of Barbarian before. As I always say, there's very little, if anything, new under the sun. But the way Zach Kreger approaches it, it feels new, it feels novel, and that's the sweet spot. It's not to create something new, it's to take what's known and make it feel new. And that's what, for me at any rate, Barbarian does. And as I mentioned during my opening, it is not the scariest thing you have ever seen. No way is it the scariest thing you've ever seen, especially if you're into horror movies. But that being said, it's very well done, and it has its thrills and chills. It's a very good movie. And what's even doubly impressive about Barbarian is that this movie cost, I want to say, $4 million or so to produce. That's a lot of money, though on a scale of production budgets, it's really not that much. It has earned $44 million, and that's not even talking about streaming and DVD and any other revenue sources. Just in theaters, it earned $44 million, which is a great return on investment. Barbarian, at the end of the day, is shockingly good. In terms of being very entertaining, in terms of being very thrilling and scary at points. And it really works particularly well. Though, if I were to draw slight criticism, it's that initially the movie says that Keith and Tess both received permission to stay at this house at the same time. Later in the movie, it tells you that the company that rents out this Airbnb did no such thing. Which leads to a question. Who did it? If you watch Barbarian, the antagonists did not. There is no way they did that. So it doesn't really make sense, unless that's a plan for the sequel. But how that's supposed to work doesn't really gel. But that being said, this is such a good movie that error in a lesser movie could perhaps doom it. In the case of Barbarian, you kind of just move on because it's so well done. So what do you think? This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com in review. Do you agree, disagree? Let me know down below. And as usual, consider a like or a follow. Peace.